Husband left pregnant wife in abandoned house. Years later, he fell to his knees in remorse. Benjamin Parker felt every heartbeat like an accusation as he drove down the dirt road leading to the old rural property. 5 years had passed since he'd abandoned Amanda, 6 months pregnant, in that crumbling house inherited from her grandmother in rural Tennessee. It was when he spotted the structure in the distance that his body reacted instinctively. Benjamin slammed the brakes on the rented pickup truck, stumbled out and fell to his knees on the damp earth. Silent tears streamed down his face as he stared at the physical evidence of his cowardice. A simple wooden house with a sagging roof and walls faded by time. The same place where, young and immature, he had shouted words he couldn't take back, and left without a second glance, convinced he wasn't ready to be a father. "What have I done?" he murmured to himself, trembling hands clutching fistfuls of dirt. The small town of Pine Ridge, just a few miles away, remained practically unchanged. Benjamin had grown up there just like Amanda. They'd met at the local school, dated all through their teens and married young, full of dreams. He worked in construction, and she was a nurse at the health clinic. The pregnancy hadn't been planned. Arguments about money, the future, and the rundown house inherited from her grandmother, where they'd have to live soon, followed. Benjamin remembered clearly that stormy night when, after yet another heated fight, he simply grabbed his backpack and left, abandoning a frightened, pregnant young wife all alone. "Sir, are you all right?" A woman's voice snapped him out of his memories. Benjamin lifted his tear-streaked face and saw a grey-haired woman with a worried expression standing beside an old bicycle. "I'm sorry. He tried to explain, clumsily getting up and brushing dirt off his pants. "You're not from around here, are you?" the woman asked, studying his face with curiosity. "Actually, I am. Or I was. It's been a long time since I've been back," Benjamin replied, unable to tear his gaze from the abandoned house. The woman followed his stare, and her expression shifted, as if she'd realized something important. "You must be Benjamin," she said with a certainty that sent a chill down his spine. "I'm Mrs. Dorothy, the neighbor from the farm next door." Benjamin's face went pale. He hadn't expected to be recognized so quickly. "Amanda and the boy, are they okay?" The words came out almost like a plea. Mrs. Dorothy took a deep breath, steadying herself on the bike's handlebars. "Why don't you come have some coffee with me? I've got a lot to tell you." Benjamin followed the woman in his truck for a few minutes, until they reached a simple but well-kept property. His heart pounded unevenly in his chest. For 5 years he'd tried to rebuild his life in New York, where he'd found work at a construction company and worked his way up to foreman. But the emptiness and guilt never left him, growing heavier with each uncelebrated birthday of a child he didn't even know. Mrs. Dorothy brewed strong coffee while Benjamin sat at the rough, wooden table waiting anxiously. Through the kitchen window, he could still see part of the abandoned house in the distance. "It wasn't easy for her, you know," Mrs. Dorothy began, setting a steaming cup in front of him. "We all thought she'd leave when you walked out, maybe go back to her parents' place in town, but Amanda's too stubborn." Benjamin felt the weight of guilt press harder on his shoulders. "Does she still live there?" he asked, unable to imagine how anyone could stay in those conditions for so long, especially with a child. "No. She doesn't live in the old house anymore," Mrs. Dorothy replied, blowing on her coffee. "But that story isn't mine to tell. If you really want to know, you'll have to find her." "I don't know if I have that right," Benjamin admitted, staring at the cup between his fingers. "You lost that right when you left," the woman said bluntly. "But your son has the right to know his father, don't you think?" The words hit Benjamin like a punch. His son, a 5-year-old boy who had grown up without a father. "What's he like?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Dorothy smiled for the first time. "He's the spitting image of his father, and he asks about you, you know. Amanda never spoke badly of you to him, just said you had to go work far away." Benjamin swallowed hard, fighting back the tears forming again. "Where can I find them?" "Amanda opened a small bakery in town. It's called Sweet Home," Mrs. Dorothy explained. "She starts work at 6 every morning." That night, staying at the only inn in the small town, Benjamin couldn't sleep. images of the past mixed with possibilities for the future as he tried to muster the courage for the reunion. Through the window, he watched the scattered lights of the town, wondering which one might belong to his ex-wife and the son he'd never met. By 5:30 the next morning, he was standing in front of a simple house with a sign that read, "Sweet Home Bakery." Through the window, he could see light in the back of the shop. His heart felt like it might leap out of his throat when the door opened and Amanda appeared. She looked different. Her once long hair was now short and practical. She seemed thinner, more grown up. Her expression focused as she turned on the lights and arranged the counter. Benjamin stood frozen on the sidewalk, unable to move, just watching through the glass the woman he had once promised to love forever. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. Then the door opened again and a boy of about 5 came running in, followed by an older woman Benjamin recognized as Amanda's mother. "Mommy, I brought my stickers." "The poo," boy exclaimed, and Benjamin felt the world stop. That was his son. Dark, curly hair just like his, the same face shape. Amanda smiled at the boy in a way Benjamin remembered well, a smile reserved only for those she loved deeply. "Ethan, put those away for now. Grandma's taking you to school, and later you can show your friends," Amanda replied, bending down to kiss her son's forehead. Ethan. His son's name was Ethan. Benjamin took a step back, suddenly realizing he wasn't ready. He needed more time, needed to think. How would he be received? What would he say? What right did he have to reappear after so many years? He turned and walked quickly in the opposite direction, feeling just as cowardly as the day he left. In the following days, Benjamin settled into a routine of watching from a distance. He found out where Ethan went to school and observed him on the playground during recess. He passed by the bakery several times a day, sometimes buying a pastry, without revealing himself, just to taste Amanda's work. In the afternoons, he saw his former mother-in-law pick the boy up from school and take him to the bakery, where he did homework at a small table in the corner while his mother worked. One afternoon, standing across the street, Benjamin was startled by Mrs. Dorothy. "How long are you going to keep hiding like a criminal?" she asked. "I don't know how to approach them, how to explain," Benjamin began. "And you think you'll figure it out by standing on this corner?" Mrs. Dorothy shot back. "Listen, young man, I shouldn't meddle, but I'll tell you something. Amanda's in trouble." Benjamin frowned, concerned. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind money can fix. The bakery is doing well, but there were complications when Ethan was born. He has asthma and needed special care. The hospital bills piled up and she's still paying them off. On top of that, the landlord raised the rent for the bakery space. Amanda has been working twice as hard to keep everything running." The news hit Benjamin like a ton of bricks. His son had health problems, and Amanda was struggling financially while he, cowardly, kept his distance. "I have some money saved up. Maybe I could," he started to say. "She's too proud to take your money now. You'd need another way." That's how Benjamin came up with a plan. He showed up at the bakery as a customer who had loved the sweets and wanted to place a large order for a corporate event. He used his middle name, Michael, and made up a story about representing a construction company that was launching a project in the area. While finalizing the order details, he deliberately mentioned that the company also did small renovations as part of a community outreach program. "We're looking for local businesses that could use some improvements," he explained, uncomfortable with the lie but determined to help. "It's a way for the company to connect with the community before the launch. Your place would be perfect." Amanda seemed skeptical, but interested. "What kind of renovations?" "Minor repairs, painting, maybe rearranging the space to optimize production," Benjamin said, avoiding prolonged eye contact to avoid recognition. "All at no cost, of course. It'd be a partnership. You provide the sweets for our opening event at a discount, and we handle the renovations." After some hesitation, Amanda agreed. What she didn't know was that there was no construction company. Benjamin would use his own savings and skills as a contractor to do the work. He hired 2 local helpers who didn't know him and started a week later. Being so close to Amanda every day was sweet torture. He watched her work tirelessly, noticed how she smiled wearily at the end of the day, how her eyes lit up when Ethan came home from school. The boy, curious as any child his age, often stopped by to watch the renovations and ask questions. "Do you know my dad?" Ethan asked one day, catching Benjamin completely off guard. "Your dad?" Benjamin repeated, his mouth dry. "Yeah, Mom said he builds houses like you," the boy explained innocently. "He lives far away, building houses somewhere." "Hells?" Benjamin's heart clenched. Amanda hadn't told their son he'd abandoned them. She'd crafted a story that preserved the absent father's image. "No, I don't know him," Benjamin answered, hating himself for the lie. "But I'm sure he's a good man." "Mom says he is," Ethan replied, swinging his little legs as he sat on a makeshift bench. "She said one day he'll come back, when he's done building all the important houses." His son's words were like knives in his chest. Benjamin turned away to hide the tears welling up. How could Amanda be so kind after all he'd done? As the renovations progressed, Benjamin realized Amanda's financial situation was even worse than Mrs. Dorothy had said. The bakery equipment was old and constantly breaking down. Without her knowing, he started replacing parts and buying new tools, always claiming they were part of the renovation project. One evening, while working on the bakery's kitchen ceiling after closing time, Benjamin overheard a conversation between Amanda and her mother in the next room. "I don't know what to do, Mom." Amanda's voice was tired, worried. "The doctor said Ethan needs more intensive treatment for his asthma. It's $3,000 a month for at least 6 months. Sweetheart, your father and I can help a little, you know. You already do so much taking care of him while I work." "I can't ask for more," Amanda replied. "Maybe I can get a loan from the bank." "Using the bakery as collateral? That's too risky. You built that from nothing. What choice do I have?" Amanda's voice broke. "I can't let my son suffer." Benjamin felt a lump in his throat. That same night, he began forming another plan. He reached out to Ethan's doctor, introducing himself as Amanda's distant cousin, who wanted to help anonymously. He prepaid 6 months of treatment, leaving instructions to tell Amanda the cost had been reduced due to a hospital assistance program. Weeks passed, and the bakery renovation was nearly done. Benjamin knew he'd soon run out of excuses to stay. The thought of leaving again, even knowing he'd helped financially, was unbearable. He'd fallen for the son he'd watched from afar and rediscovered feelings for Amanda that had never truly faded. It was Mrs. Dorothy who, once again, stepped into his path. "I heard the renovation's almost finished," the older woman remarked, appearing unexpectedly at the bakery while Benjamin worked alone. "Yeah, just a few more days," he answered without looking up from the flooring he was installing. "And then? Will you disappear again?" Benjamin finally met her gaze, tired of pretending. "What do you suggest I do? Show up and say, 'Hi, it's me, the man who left you pregnant 5 years ago. I'm here to apologize.'" "To start, it would be honest," Mrs. Dorothy countered. "Amanda deserves the truth, and Ethan deserves to know his father." "What if she hates me? What if she doesn't want me near Ethan?" "That's a risk you'll have to take, isn't it?" she replied simply. "But let me tell you something. Amanda keeps your wedding band in her dresser drawer. She's never been with anyone else since you left. What does that tell you?" Mrs. Dorothy's words echoed in Benjamin's mind for days. The night before, finishing the renovation, he made a decision. He wrote a letter explaining everything: who he really was, why he'd returned, the financial help he'd arranged, and most of all, how deeply he regretted it all. He planned to leave it on the bakery counter after his last day of work, but fate had other plans. That same afternoon, Ethan had an asthma attack at school and was rushed to the hospital. Frantic, Amanda called her mother, who couldn't make it in time to pick up her grandson. That's when Benjamin's phone rang. He'd given his number as the emergency contact for the renovation. "Michael," Amanda's voice was choked with tears. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm at the hospital with my son. I won't be able to open the bakery this afternoon." "What happened?" Benjamin asked, already grabbing his car keys, his heart racing. "Bad asthma attack. I'm alone here. My mum's stuck in traffic coming from the next town, and—" "Which hospital?" Benjamin interrupted, already in the car. Mercy, General, but you don't have to. I'm on my way. Benjamin drove as if his life depended on it. When he arrived, he found Amanda in the waiting room, her eyes red from crying. Without thinking, he instinctively pulled her into his arms, just as he used to years ago when she was upset. It's going to be okay, he murmured, feeling her tense in his embrace. Amanda pulled back, staring at him in confusion. How's Ethan? Benjamin asked, trying to cover his slip. He's being treated now. The doctor said the episode was severe, but they're managing to control it, she replied, still watching him strangely. You seem awfully concerned for someone who barely knows us. Benjamin swallowed hard. The moment of truth was coming faster than he'd planned. Amanda, I need to tell you something. Just then the doctor appeared in the hallway, calling for Amanda. The revelation would have to wait. Benjamin remained in the waiting room while she spoke with the doctor and then went to see their son. An hour later, she returned. He's doing better, but they'll keep him overnight for observation, she informed him, sitting beside Benjamin, visibly exhausted. Thank you for coming. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, he answered, gathering courage. Amanda, There's been something off about you from the start, she interrupted, studying his face carefully. Your voice, your manner. Why would a stranger care so much? Benjamin took a deep breath. It was now or never. Because I'm not a stranger, Amanda. It's me, Benjamin. The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda's expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to a contained anger he'd never seen on her face before. What? She whispered, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. I came back a few weeks ago. I wanted to find you and Ethan, but I didn't know how. He tried to explain quickly. When I heard you needed help, I thought the renovation would be a way to... The slap came fast and unexpected, striking his face hard. Amanda was on her feet now, trembling with anger. 5 years, she said through clenched teeth. 5 years. Without a word, without a penny, without anything. And now you show up, sneak into my life, into our son's life, lying. I know I was wrong, Benjamin replied, accepting her anger as deserved. There's no excuse for what I did. But I'm here, now wanting to make things right. Make things right? Amanda laughed humorlessly. You think you can make up for 5 years of absence? 5 years of nights when your son asked why his father wasn't there? 5 years of me doing everything alone? People in the waiting room began to stare, and a nurse approached, asking them to keep their voices down. I have nothing to say to you, Amanda declared, turning to leave. You're the one who told Ethan I was building important houses. Benjamin's words made her stop. Why, Amanda? Why not tell him the truth, that I abandoned you both? When she turned back, there were tears in her eyes. Because one day he'll grow up and form his own opinion about the father he had. I didn't want that opinion to be shaped by my pain. The answer disarmed Benjamin completely. You're amazing, he murmured. Always were better than I deserved. Amanda quickly wiped her tears. I need to get back to Ethan. I don't want him waking up alone. Can I meet him? Properly, I mean. As his father, Benjamin asked, knowing he was asking for too much. Amanda stared at him for a long moment before answering. No, not now. Not until I'm sure you won't disappear again at the first sign of trouble. Ethan's suffered enough with his asthma, without having to deal with a father who comes and goes. With those words, she walked away, leaving Benjamin alone with the weight of his past choices. In the following days, Benjamin completed the bakery renovation as promised, but now he worked in silence, without their previous casual conversations. Amanda was distant, formal, protecting herself and her son from further disappointment. One afternoon, as he finished installing some shelves, Amanda approached with 2 cups of coffee. I don't know why I'm doing this, she said, handing him one of the cups. Maybe because despite everything you really did help with the renovation, and I heard it was you who paid for Ethan's treatment at the hospital. Benjamin accepted the coffee, surprised by the gesture. How did you find out? The doctor let it slip. I thought the social program he mentioned was odd, so I pressed for answers, Amanda explained, sitting in a nearby chair. Why, Benjamin? Why come back now? He set the cup aside, choosing his words carefully. Because I never truly moved on. Because the guilt consumed me every day. because I grew up and realized the terrible mistake I made," he paused, "and mostly because I wanted to meet my son and try, even knowing it might be impossible, to fix the damage I caused." Amanda studied him for a long moment. "What if I say it's too late?" "Then I'll respect your decision," Benjamin replied, sincerely. "I'll keep helping financially from afar if you'll allow it, but I'll understand if you want me completely out of your lives." The silence between them was heavy with unresolved emotions, years of hurt, but also a connection that had never fully broken. "Ethan has a school recital next week," Amanda finally said. "He plays the flute. He's not very good yet, but he tries hard." Benjamin felt a flicker of hope. "I'd love to be there." "I'm not saying things will go back to normal or that I'll ever fully forgive you," Amanda clarified. "But Ethan deserves to know his father. As long as you promise not to disappear again, I promise, Amanda, with all my soul." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. The school recital was a nerve-wracking moment for everyone. Benjamin arrived an hour early, carefully choosing the gift he'd bought for Ethan, a small child's toolbox inspired by the boy's interest in building things. He sat in the back row of the small auditorium, his heart pounding as he watched. Other families arrive. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, all celebrating their little one's achievements together. The music teacher, Mrs. Jenkins, a grey-haired woman with a patient smile, organized the children backstage. Benjamin watched her guide the young musicians with a mix of discipline and warmth. He wondered how many of Ethan's performances he'd already missed. Amanda arrived in a hurry, her hair in a messy bun, traces of flour still on the apron she hadn't had time to change. Her eyes scanned the room until they found Benjamin, and she gave him a small nod before sitting a few rows ahead next to her parents. "This is Benjamin's first time, isn't it?" Benjamin heard Mrs. Margaret ask her daughter. "Yes, Mum, and please don't make this harder," Amanda replied softly, though Benjamin caught the defensive edge in her voice. Mr. Richard, a man of few words and strong principles, simply glanced back, meeting Benjamin's eyes briefly before turning his attention to the stage. That look held years of restrained judgment, a distrust Benjamin knew he'd have to work hard to overcome. Amanda had decided not to tell Ethan right away who Benjamin was. First, she wanted to see how he'd behave if he'd really keep his word about being present. He couldn't handle another disappointment, she'd explained to Benjamin over the phone the night before. "I need to be sure, you understand?" Benjamin understood. More than that, he respected her decision. He knew every moment with Ethan now was a privilege, not a right, one he'd have to earn. The lights dimmed and the performance began. First, a choir of younger children sang a song about friendship, then a group of girls danced to a popular tune. Benjamin watched everything with genuine interest, but his mind was focused on the next performance, the group of flutists Ethan was part of. When the group finally took the stage, Benjamin felt himself holding his breath. He spotted Ethan immediately. The boy adjusted his posture just as the teacher had taught, holding the small flute with a comical seriousness for a child his age. His dark, curly hair, so much like Benjamin's, was neatly combed to the side. The music began, a simplified version of White Wings that the children had rehearsed for weeks. Benjamin felt a lump in his throat when he noticed Ethan closing his eyes during the trickier parts, just as he himself did when he needed to concentrate hard. One note came out off key, and Ethan made a little grimace. Benjamin saw Amanda lean, slightly forward in her chair, as if she could physically help her son find the right note. The boy quickly recovered, picking up the melody with determination. When the performance ended, Benjamin was the first to stand, applauding with such enthusiasm that a few people glanced curiously his way. He didn't care. The pride, he felt, was too great to be contained by social conventions. "He looks so much like you," remarked a voice beside him. It was Mrs. Dorothy, who had arrived quietly during the performance. "You think so?" Benjamin asked, moved. "The same stubbornness from what I see," the older woman replied with a smile. "He wasn't going to give up even after that wrong note." Benjamin smiled, recognizing the trait. After the performance, families gathered in the schoolyard for a small community snack. Amanda allowed Benjamin to join them, introducing him to Ethan simply as a friend. The boy was excited by the presence of an adult who seemed genuinely interested in his stories about school and friends. "Did you know I made that wooden house?" "In art class." Ethan pointed proudly to a display of schoolwork in the hallway. The teacher said it was the best in the class. Benjamin examined the little model with real interest, noticing the careful details, the perfectly aligned windows, the meticulously glued roof. "You've got talent," he praised sincerely. "Have you ever thought about being an architect when you grow up?" Ethan's eyes lit up at the possibility. "What's an architect?" "It's someone who draws houses before they're built," Benjamin explained patiently. "They decide where the windows and doors go, what the roof will look like a house drawer." The boy tried to grasp the concept. "Exactly, a very special house drawer." Amanda watched the interaction from a distance, chatting with other mothers but keeping an eye on the pair. Benjamin noticed her wary expression softening gradually as she saw how naturally he talked with Ethan. After the school event, they all went to a nearby ice cream shop. Ethan walked between Benjamin and Amanda, occasionally jumping and telling stories about his friends and teachers. To any casual observer, they would have looked like a normal family enjoying an ordinary moment. "Do you build houses too?" Ethan asked between licks of his chocolate ice cream. "Like my dad." Benjamin exchanged a quick glance with Amanda before answering, "Yes, I work in construction too." "Cool," Ethan exclaimed, eyes shining. "Do you know lots of people who build houses? Maybe you know my dad." Benjamin's heart clenched at his son's innocence. He felt Amanda's gaze on him, a mix of caution and understanding. That moment, so simple and spontaneous, carried the weight of 5 years of absence. "Joyce, maybe one day you'll meet each other," Amanda interjected softly, sparing Benjamin from answering. Ethan continued enjoying his ice cream, oblivious to the tense moment he had just created. His feet swung under the high chair, not quite, reaching the floor as he watched the ice cream shop's activity with fascination. "When your dad comes back, Ethan, what do you want to do with him the most?" Benjamin asked carefully, feeling he needed to hear the answer. The boy thought for a moment, his ice cream spoon hovering in the air. "I want him to teach me how to build a treehouse," he finally replied. "My friend Jason has one his dad made. It even has a real window." Benjamin felt something break inside him, perhaps the last emotional barrier he had been trying to hold on to. This simple, childish wish to spend time building something with his absent father struck him deeper than any reproach ever could. "That would be really cool," he managed to say, his voice slightly rough. "I'm sure your dad would love doing that with you." Amanda, sensing Benjamin's emotion, skillfully changed the subject. "Ethan, tell Benjamin about your science project. The one with the crystals, remember?" The distraction worked, and the boy soon excitedly explained how he had grown colorful crystals in his classroom. Benjamin listened with genuine interest, asking questions and admiring his son's knowledge. On the walk back to Amanda's house, Ethan ran a few steps ahead, occasionally stopping to examine something interesting along the way. "He's amazing," Benjamin remarked quietly. "He is," Amanda agreed with a soft smile. "He's so curious, always wanting to understand how everything works. His teachers say he asks questions they don't always know how to answer." "Takes after his mother," Benjamin said, looking at her with admiration. "Remember how you used to bombard me with questions when I explained construction projects?" Amanda laughed, a sound Benjamin realized he had missed deeply. "I just wanted to make sure you actually knew what you were talking about. You were awfully confident for someone so young." This small moment of shared reminiscence seemed to momentarily lower the guard Amanda had kept up. For a few seconds, they were just two old friends remembering the past, not ex-spouses navigating a complicated reunion. In the weeks that followed, Benjamin established a steady but cautious presence in their lives. He visited the bakery regularly, first as a customer, then offering to help with small repairs that had been put off. A wobbly shelf, a door that wouldn't close right, a leak in the kitchen sink. Amanda accepted his help with polite gratitude, but still kept an emotional distance that Benjamin respected. It was Ethan who naturally broke down the initial barriers. The boy gravitated toward Benjamin with the ease children have in forming. New connections. He started asking for help with homework, especially math, which Amanda admitted wasn't her strong suit. "You explain it better than my teacher," Ethan remarked one day after Benjamin helped him with multiplication problems. "She gets mad when I ask too many questions." Benjamin smiled, proud to be useful. "Asking is good, Ethan. That's how we learn. Never stop asking questions, okay?" On Saturdays, they began working on small woodworking projects. They started with something simple, a wooden box for Ethan to keep his rock and shell collections. Benjamin patiently taught him how to measure twice before cutting, how to sand the edges to avoid splinters, and how to apply varnish to protect the wood. "My mom said you're going to rebuild the old house," Ethan mentioned during one of tea. These sessions focused on carefully sanding a piece of wood. "So I say yes, we're planning that," Benjamin confirmed, surprised that Amanda had discussed the matter with their son. "Can we live there when it's ready?" the boy asked innocently, not looking up from his homework. The question caught Benjamin off guard. He and Amanda hadn't discussed future living arrangements. "That depends on your mother, Ethan, but it would be nice, wouldn't it?" "It would be awesome," the boy replied excitedly. "There'd be so much space to play, and maybe a treehouse." "Maybe," Benjamin smiled, imagining the possibilities. "There's a perfect tree near the creek." Later, when he mentioned the conversation, to Amanda she seemed uneasy. "Ethan is getting attached too quickly," she said worriedly. "I'm afraid he'll get hurt if things don't work out." "I understand your concern," Benjamin replied sincerely. "But I want you to know I'm committed, Amanda. I'm not here temporarily. I'm here to stay no matter what happens between us." Amanda nodded, though not entirely convinced. "Time, Benjamin. We need time." And time was what he gave her, without pressure, without stated expectations, just being consistently present. He helped Ethan with homework, taught him small carpentry skills, and began picking him up from school twice a week when Amanda was busy at the bakery. One Sunday, about 2 months after their reunion, Amanda suggested they visit the old house on the rural property. "Ethan has never been there, and I think we need in some way to face the past to move forward," she explained. The house remained as Benjamin had seen it the first time, abandoned, weathered by time. While Ethan ran around the property, exploring with the curiosity of a child, Amanda and Benjamin stood silently before the structure. "This is where everything ended," she finally said, "and maybe it's where we can start over, in some way." "Do you really think that's possible?" Benjamin asked, hardly daring to believe. Amanda took a deep breath. "I don't know. It still hurts, Benjamin. I'm still scared, but I see how you are with Ethan, how he's already attached to you without even knowing who you really are, and that means something." Just then, Ethan came running back. "Mom, there's a pond back there. Can I go see?" "Only with an adult," Amanda replied. "Why don't you go with Benjamin?" The boy smiled and took Benjamin's hand without hesitation, pulling him toward the discovery. That small gesture of trust meant the world. As they walked, Ethan fired off questions about everything. "Why is this house abandoned? Did someone live here? Do you know how to fix old houses?" Benjamin answered patiently, amazed by his son's curiosity and intelligence. When they reached the small pond, they sat on a rock by the water. "Benjamin, can I ask you something?" Ethan said, suddenly serious. "Of course, what is it?" "Are you and Mom dating?" The question caught Benjamin by surprise. "No, we're not dating, we're friends." "But you look at her the way Jake's dad looks at his mom," Ethan observed with the sharp insight of children. "And Mom smiles more since you came back." Benjamin didn't know how to respond to such an accurate observation. "Sometimes things between adults are complicated, Ethan." "Because of my dad?" the boy asked, leaving Benjamin completely speechless. "Grandma said he left because he was scared to be a dad, but I don't understand why anyone would be scared of that." Benjamin felt his eyes burn with unshed tears. "Sometimes people are afraid of things they shouldn't be," he answered, his voice thick. "And when they're scared, they can make bad choices. Choices that hurt other people without meaning to." Ethan thought for a moment, tossing small stones into the water. "If my father ever comes back, do you think he'll still be afraid?" "No," Benjamin answered firmly. I think he'd be more afraid of losing you again than anything else in the world." The boy smiled, satisfied with the answer, and went back to playing with the rocks. Benjamin stayed there, fighting back his emotions, knowing it was getting harder to keep up the lie. On the way back to Sweet Home, Amanda noticed something had changed. Benjamin was quiet, lost in thought. "Did something happen?" she asked once Ethan had fallen asleep in the back seat of the car. "We need to tell him the truth, Amanda," Benjamin said. "He's asking questions, trying to understand. He deserves to know who I am." Amanda gripped the steering wheel tightly, but nodded. "I know, I was just waiting to be sure." "Sure of what?" "That you've really changed, that you won't break his heart," she answered honestly. "And maybe mine a little too." Her quiet confession that she still cared made Benjamin's heart leap. "I won't, Amanda. I'm here to stay if you'll have me." The next evening, after dinner in the small house where Amanda and Ethan lived, the moment they both feared and hoped for finally arrived. With Ethan sitting between them on the couch, Amanda began, "Sweetheart, remember how we always talked about your father, how he was away building houses?" The boy nodded, looking curiously from one adult to the other. "Well, your father came back," she continued, her voice trembling. "Actually, he's been here for a while now." Ethan frowned, confused. "Where?" Benjamin took a deep breath and spoke up. "Right here, Ethan, it's me. I'm your father." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Ethan's little face flashed through a whirlwind of emotions: confusion, shock, disbelief, and finally a spark of hope. "You?" he whispered. "But why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I had to earn the right to be your father again," Benjamin explained, choosing words the boy could understand. "When you were born, I did something very wrong. I got scared and left, abandoning you and your mother. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Ethan absorbed every word, his little eyes glistening with held-back tears. "Didn't you like me?" The innocent question shattered Benjamin's heart. "No, son, that's not it. I didn't even know you, and I was scared of being a father," he tried to explain, his voice thick. "But now that I do know you, I can say you're the best person I've ever met in my life. And if you give me a chance, I really want to be your real dad." Ethan looked at his mother as if seeking confirmation. "Is it true, Mom?" Amanda nodded, fighting back tears herself. "Yes, Ethan, Benjamin is your father, and he came back because he regrets what he did and wants to be part of our lives." The boy turned back to Benjamin, studying his face as if searching for similarities. "Is that why you know how to build things? Because you're my dad?" Benjamin couldn't help but smile through his tears. "Yeah, I think you got that from me. I've seen the toys you put together. You're really talented." A shy smile began to form on Ethan's face. "Can I call you Dad?" The question, so simple and direct, hit Benjamin with full force. It was more than he deserved, more than he'd hoped for. "I'd be so honored," he answered, his voice breaking. What happened next took both Benjamin and Amanda by surprise. Ethan threw himself forward, hugging his father for the first time. Benjamin wrapped his arms around him, feeling his son's small body against his, a sensation he'd never experienced before, and one that instantly became the most important in his life. Over the boy's head his eyes met Amanda's. She was crying silently, a mix of emotions on her face. There was caution, there was fear, but there was also hope. The days that followed were full of adjustments. Ethan had thousands of questions. He wanted to know everything about his father, to show off all his toys, books, and achievements. Benjamin answered patiently, marveling at each new discovery about his son. His relationship with Amanda was changing too. The initial tension gave way to cautious camaraderie, reminiscent of the days when they were young and in love. Family dinners became frequent, as did Sunday outings. To any observer, they seemed like a normal family, slowly piecing themselves back together. One afternoon, while Ethan was at swimming lessons, Benjamin and Amanda took the opportunity to have coffee at the empty bakery. "He's so happy," Amanda remarked, watching Benjamin over the rim of her cup. "I've never seen him so excited. Yesterday he told me he wants to be a builder like his dad when he grows up." Benjamin's chest swelled with pride and gratitude. "He's amazing, Amanda. You've done a wonderful job." "We did what we could, my family and I," she replied. "But he needed you. He always did. And you, Benjamin ventured, daring to broach a subject they'd avoided. Did you need me too? Amanda lowered her eyes, stirring her spoon in the now cold coffee. I learned to live without you, Benjamin. I built a life, a business. But yes, there was a void. Always has been. He reached his hand across the table, not daring to touch her, just offering. I know asking for your forgiveness is too much, even more asking for a second chance. But I want you to know I never stopped loving you, even if I didn't deserve an ounce of your love in return. Amanda looked at his outstretched hand, hesitating. I'm scared, Benjamin, scared to trust and get hurt again. Not just for me, but for Ethan. He already adores you. If you left again, I understand your fear. It's more than justified, Benjamin replied. I'm not asking you to decide everything now. I just want the chance to show you, day by day, that I'm a different man from the one who abandoned you. After a moment of reflection, Amanda placed her hand over his, a light but meaningful touch. One day at a time, she agreed. Let's see where this takes us. That night, after dropping off Amanda and Ethan, Benjamin drove to the rural property where it had all begun and ended. Under the starry sky, he faced the abandoned house, a physical symbol of his greatest mistake. He knelt on the ground, in the same spot where Mrs. Dorothy had found him weeks before, but this time it wasn't tears of despair that streamed down his face. They were tears of gratitude, of renewed hope. I came back, he whispered to the silent house, and this time I'm staying. 3 months passed. Benjamin rented a small house in town, close enough to be present in Ethan and Amanda's lives, but maintaining the space he felt was necessary for the gradual rebuilding of trust. He managed to transfer his work to a local construction company, ensuring financial stability and permanence. A family routine settled naturally. Benjamin took Ethan to school in the mornings. Amanda picked him up in the afternoons. They shared dinners, weekends, and doctor's appointments for the boys. Asthma treatment. Little by little, the extraordinary, a father returning after years of absence, became ordinary, part of everyday life. One evening, after putting Ethan to bed with a story, Benjamin found Amanda on the porch, gazing at the stars. He finally fell asleep, he commented, sitting beside her. He wanted one more story, but I convinced him we'd continue tomorrow. Amanda smiled. You're good with him. I'm trying to make up for lost time, Benjamin replied, looking up at the sky, too, though I know some moments can't be replaced. Like his birth, Amanda added, a touch of melancholy in her voice. It was hard, you know. I was in labor for 19 hours. Benjamin felt the familiar pang of guilt. Alone? My mother was with me. But it was you who should have been there, she replied without accusation, simply stating a fact. When they finally placed him in my arms, I was too exhausted to cry. All I could do was look at him and think how much he looked like you. Benjamin swallowed hard, picturing the scene. If I could go back... We can't, Amanda gently interrupted, but we can move forward. He looked at her, noticing how the moonlight silvered her hair. He remembered a similar night years ago when they were still dating. They had been sitting on her parents' porch talking about dreams for the future. I want to build something that lasts, you told me that night, Benjamin recalled aloud. Amanda stared at him, surprised. You remember that? I remember everything, Benjamin admitted. Every important conversation we ever had is etched in my memory. It's funny. You ended up building something lasting with the bakery. I build structures that will stand for decades, but nothing I've created holds the meaning of what you built. On your own. Amanda lowered her eyes, absorbing the weight of his words. It wasn't by choice, Benjamin, it was out of necessity. A contemplative silence settled between them. The starry sky over Pine Ridge was as clear as Benjamin remembered. One of the things he'd missed most in New York was being able to see so many stars. That's what we're doing, isn't it? He finally asked. Moving forward? Amanda turned to face him, her expression serious. Her eyes, which Benjamin had known so well in the past, studied his face intently, as if searching to read his soul. Before I answer that, I need to know something, Benjamin. Why did you really come back? Was It just guilt. Or was there more? The question hung between them, heavy with all the unspoken words of 5 years. Benjamin realized this was a pivotal moment, not just for his relationship with Amanda, but for his own redemption. It was time for complete truth, no rationalizations, no half words. The question lingered between them, loaded with implications. Benjamin knew his answer could change everything. I came back because I could never forgive myself for what I did, because I needed to try to fix the harm I caused, he began, choosing his words carefully. But I also came back because, after all these years, I could never love anyone else, because you and the son I never knew occupied my thoughts every single day. I came back because even though I don't deserve it, I wanted a second chance to be the man you both deserved from the start. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now continuing, Amanda studied him for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of hesitation or falsehood in his words. "We've already lost so much time, Benjamin," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. His heart raced. "What are you saying, Amanda?" In response, she simply leaned forward, and for the first time in 5 years their lips met. A hesitant, tender kiss, filled with memories and new possibilities. When they pulled apart, Benjamin saw tears in her eyes. "We still have so much to rebuild," Amanda warned. "It won't be easy." "Nothing worth having ever is," he replied, gently holding her hands. "But I'm willing to work for it every day of my life." The next morning, Benjamin arrived earlier than usual. He'd spent most of the night awake, planning. When Amanda opened the door, dressed for another day at the bakery, he smiled nervously. "Good morning, we need to talk before we wake Ethan." Amanda raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Did something happen?" "Not yet," he replied cryptically. "But I want to show you both something today." After breakfast, Benjamin took them for a drive. Ethan, in the back seat, was excited about the mystery, while Amanda watched the scenery with growing curiosity, as she noticed the direction they were heading. "Benjamin, where are we going?" she asked when the familiar dirt road appeared. "You'll see," he replied, a nervous smile on his lips. When they arrived at the old farm property, surprise was visible on Amanda's face. Where there had once been only a rundown house, now a small crew of workers moved about. Construction materials were organized across the property, and what looked like the start of a foundation was marked near the old house. "What is this?" Amanda asked, stepping out of the car with curious Ethan by her side. Benjamin took a deep breath before explaining. "Remember when you told me this land belonged to your grandmother, that you always dreamed of living here, but the house was too run down to be livable?" "Yes, but—" "I checked the records. The property is still in your name," Benjamin continued. "I got approval for a project to restore the old house and build a new one over there." He pointed to the marked area. "If you agree, of course." Amanda seemed speechless, looking around with wide eyes. You want us to live here?" "I want to give you and Ethan the home you should have had from the start," Benjamin explained, the nervousness clear in his voice. "The old house can be restored to become a space for the bakery. The new one would be our home if you want." Ethan tugged at his mother's hand, excited. "Can we live here, Mum? There'd be so much room to play." Amanda looked at her son, at Benjamin, and then at the workers who discreetly continued their tasks, giving them privacy. "I don't know what to say," she finally managed. "Say you'll consider it," Benjamin pleaded. "I know it's a big step. We could take it slow. You keep your place in the city until everything here is ready. I don't want to pressure you. I just want to show I'm thinking about a future with you both." Amanda took a few steps toward the marked area, Ethan bouncing excitedly beside her. Benjamin stayed back, giving her space to process everything. After a few minutes, she turned. "Why here? Why this specific place where everything went wrong?" The question was deep, important. Benjamin stepped closer, stopping a few feet away. "Because I want to turn the symbol of my biggest mistake into the symbol of our second chance. Because I want to look out the window every morning and remember what I almost lost, so I never make the same mistake again." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I tried," he replied with a shy smile. "But the decision is yours, Amanda. If you'd prefer another place, another plan. She looked around once more, at the old house holding so many painful memories, at her son exploring the land with excitement, and finally at the man who had returned, determined to fix what he'd broken. We'll need at least 3 bedrooms, she finally said. Ethan's growing up and will want more privacy soon. And maybe a brother or sister eventually. Benjamin's heart leaped. Is that a yes? Amanda took a few steps toward him, stopping right in front of him. It's a let's try, she answered, a cautious but genuine smile on her lips. One, a day at a time, remember? Benjamin nodded, content with that promise of possibilities. That afternoon, as Ethan ran through the field with Mrs. Dorothy, who had joined them for an impromptu picnic, Benjamin and Amanda sat on the steps of the old house, planning the future. I never thought we'd come back here, Amanda confessed, glancing at the construction behind them. After you left, I tried to stay, you know. I fixed up a room enough to be livable, but it was too hard, too many memories. I'm sorry, Benjamin replied, the guilt still there, but now mixed with determination. I promise we'll make new memories, better ones. Amanda rested her head on his shoulder, a gesture that felt as natural as breathing. Did you know I kept your wedding ring? She revealed. All these years. Benjamin swallowed hard, moved. I kept mine too, he confessed, pulling a simple chain from his pocket with the gold ring dangling from it. I could never bring myself to let it go. They sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the symbols of broken promises, and perhaps promises that could be renewed. I'll check the plans with the architect tomorrow, Benjamin finally said, breaking the thoughtful silence. Will you come with me? I want the house to be exactly how you always dreamed. Amanda smiled, squeezing his hand gently. We'll go together, like it should have been from the start. The following week, as the house plans progressed, Benjamin faced a new challenge. Ethan had another asthma attack, thankfully milder than the last, but enough to worry them. The doctor suggested more specialized treatment in New York. Ideally, he should see a pediatric pulmonologist, the doctor explained. There's an excellent one in New York who handles cases like Ethan's, but I understand the logistics might be complicated. Benjamin and Amanda exchanged worried glances. A trip to New York would mean time away from the bakery, extra expenses, and the hassle of finding accommodations in the big city. We'll make it work, Benjamin said firmly. Ethan's health comes first, and so 2 weeks later, the small family set off on their trip to the city. Benjamin had rented a temporary apartment and scheduled a series of appointments with the recommended specialist. Ethan was excited about the trip, turning what could have been a stressful experience into an adventure. Amanda, however, was visibly anxious, not just about their son's health, but also about leaving the bakery in her assistant's hands. It'll be fine, Benjamin reassured her as they drove down the highway. Rachel is capable, and it's only 2 weeks. It's not just that, Amanda admitted, staring out the window. It's the first time we're traveling like this as a family. The word carried a special weight, a new reality they were still learning to navigate. It's nice, isn't it? Benjamin asked, risking a quick glance at her. Amanda smiled, nodding. Different, but nice. New York proved both challenging and invigorating. The apartment Benjamin had rented was small but comfortable, located near the hospital where Ethan would receive treatment. Between appointments and tests, they explored the city, visiting parks, museums, and, of course, bakeries that Amanda studied with a professional eye. So many new ideas, she remarked after visiting an award-winning bakery. I never imagined I could do so much with my cakes. Your talent deserves to be shared with more people, Benjamin replied, watching the excitement in her eyes. Maybe once the new bakery at the property is ready, you could expand. The idea planted a seed that began to grow in Amanda's mind. In the days that followed, between Ethan's appointments, she took detailed notes, sketched designs, and even spoke with some equipment suppliers. Ethan's treatment progressed well. The specialist adjusted his medication and offered techniques to help manage his attacks. He even suggested that the cleaner air at the rural property would benefit his lungs. It feels like everything's falling into place, Amanda remarked the night before their return. They were sitting on the small balcony of the apartment, Ethan already asleep after a tiring day. The new house, his treatment, the expanded bakery, as if the universe was making up for lost time, Benjamin added, taking a sip of wine. But I know it's not that simple. No, it's not, Amanda agreed, her face growing more serious. Benjamin, I need to ask you something important. He set the glass down, sensing the shift in the conversation. Anything. Do you really believe we can start over? Not like we were before, but as something new, something better, she asked, vulnerability in every word. Because this time, it's not just me who'd get hurt if it doesn't work out. Ethan is so attached to you now. Benjamin held her hands in his, looking straight into her eyes. I believe it with all my heart. I'm not that scared young man who ran from responsibility anymore. I spent 5 years paying the price for my cowardice, and I promise I'll never make that mistake again. He paused, gathering courage. I love you, Amanda. I never stopped loving you. And I love our son more than I ever thought possible. You two are my family, my home, no matter where we are. Amanda studied him for a long moment, as if searching for any hint of doubt in his eyes. Finding none, she leaned in to kiss him, a kiss that carried forgiveness, hope, and the promise of a fresh start. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. That's why it hurt so much when you left, and that's why I'm still afraid. Fear is natural, Benjamin replied. But we won't let it define our future, not this time. Back in the small town, life had settled into its rhythm, now with more concrete plans. The construction of the new house was progressing quickly, with Amanda visiting the site almost daily to check on the progress. Ethan, fascinated by the process, often tagged along, watching the workers intently and asking endless questions that Benjamin answered patiently. The bakery had also undergone changes. Inspired by what she'd seen in New York, Amanda introduced new recipes and began seriously planning the business's expansion once they moved to the rural property. One Saturday morning, as Benjamin worked on some final details for the house project, he received an unexpected visit. Mrs. Dorothy, the neighbor who had been instrumental in his reconciliation with the family, appeared at his door with a troubled expression. We need to talk, the older woman said bluntly. Benjamin invited her in, offering coffee, which she politely declined. What's wrong? He asked, concerned by the seriousness on the face of the woman he now considered a friend. Last night, I saw lights in the old house, Mrs. Dorothy explained. I thought it was odd since you've already started building the new one. I went to check this morning and found signs that someone had been there. Benjamin frowned, confused. Must have been one of the workers. No, Benjamin, she interrupted. I found this. Mrs. Dorothy held out a small metal object, a silver lighter with engraved initials. BP, Benjamin Parker. He took it with trembling hands, recognizing it instantly. Where did you find this? In what used to be your bedroom, Mrs. Dorothy replied. It was on top of the old dresser, as if someone had placed it there on purpose. A chill ran down Benjamin's spine. That lighter had gone missing years ago, the night he left Amanda. This doesn't make sense, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Someone must have found it and left it there. Maybe, Mrs. Dorothy agreed, though her tone suggested doubt. I just thought you should know. People in town still talk, Benjamin. Not everyone believes you've changed. After Mrs. Dorothy left, Benjamin remained unsettled. The lighter in his hands seemed to burn, a physical reminder of his past that refused to stay buried. He decided not to mention the incident to Amanda, not wanting to worry her over what was likely just a strange coincidence. That afternoon, driven by curiosity, Benjamin drove out to the rural property. Construction was halted on Saturdays, leaving the place deserted except for the old house, silent and imposing in its decay. He stepped inside cautiously, the wooden floor creaking under his feet. The interior was just as he remembered, worn by time with dusty old furniture, remnants of a life that seemed to belong to someone else. In the room Mrs. Dorothy had mentioned, Benjamin felt an almost tangible presence from the past. It was in that room where he'd had his last argument with Amanda, where cruel words were spoken, where he'd made the choice that would define 5 years of regret. A sudden gust of wind made the broken window slam shut, startling him. In the silence that followed, Benjamin was certain he heard something, a whisper perhaps, or the distant sound of footsteps. "Is anyone there?" he called, feeling foolish for being spooked in broad daylight. No answer came, just the natural groans of an old house. Benjamin shook his head, laughing nervously at his own overactive imagination. That's when he noticed something different. The dresser drawer was slightly ajar. Approaching carefully, he pulled it open completely. Inside, he found a yellowed envelope addressed to Amanda, dated 5 years earlier, the day after he'd left. The envelope was open, revealing a handwritten letter. Benjamin recognized his own handwriting immediately, though he had no memory of writing those words. As if in a trance, he began to read. "Amanda, when you find this letter, I'll already be gone. I can't fully explain why I'm leaving, only that I feel I have no choice. The idea of being a father, of taking on that responsibility when I can barely take care of myself, terrifies me. I know this will hurt you deeply, and for that I ask for your forgiveness, though I know I don't deserve it. Maybe one day I'll find the courage I lack now. Maybe one day I'll return if you can still accept me. I'm leaving this lighter, your gift to me on our first anniversary, as a silent promise that this isn't a final goodbye, just a painfully prolonged see you later. With love, even if I don't deserve to love you. Benjamin." He let the letter fall, his hands trembling uncontrollably. He had never written that. The night he left, he had stormed out impulsively after an argument, leaving nothing behind but devastation. Someone was playing with him, trying to unsettle him. But who? And why? Confused and disturbed, Benjamin picked up the letter and quickly left the house, feeling watched by invisible eyes. In the car, he took several deep breaths, trying to regain his composure. The forged letter meant someone was deliberately interfering, trying to cause trouble between him and Amanda. He needed to find out who, and fast, before they succeeded. When he returned to town, Benjamin decided to seek out Amanda immediately. He found her at the bakery, finishing a cake for a special order. "We need to talk," he said, the urgency in his voice alarming her instantly. "What happened?" Amanda asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "Is it Ethan?" "No, he's fine. He's with his mother," Benjamin reassured her. "It's something else." He recounted his encounter with Mrs. Dorothy, the lighter mysteriously appearing, and finally showed her the forged letter. Amanda listened carefully, her face shifting from confusion to concern. "This doesn't make sense," she said after examining the letter. "Who would do this? And why?" "I don't know, but I'm worried," Benjamin admitted. "Someone clearly wants to interfere with what we're rebuilding." Amanda paused for a moment, biting her lower lip as she always did when deep in thought. "Do you think it could be—" She hesitated. "Who?" "Ryan," she finally said. "My ex-boyfriend. We dated a few times last year before you came back. He wasn't too happy when I ended things." Benjamin felt a pang of jealousy, quickly followed by worry. "Do you think he'd be capable of something like this?" Amanda shrugged uncomfortably. "He was always a bit possessive, and he works at City Hall. He'd have easy access to property records, would know about the construction." The possibility was unsettling. If they were right, this Ryan might not stop here. "Maybe we should go to the police," Benjamin suggested. "With what evidence? A lighter and a forged letter?" Amanda shook her head. "Let's watch and wait for now. Install cameras around the property, maybe. If it really is him, we need to catch him in the act." Reluctantly, Benjamin agreed. The next morning, he discreetly set up security cameras around the old house and the new construction. He also hired a night watchman, without fully explaining the situation, just mentioning concerns about material theft. The following days passed with apparent normalcy, though the underlying tension was palpable. Benjamin kept checking the camera feeds, but nothing unusual showed up. He began to think they might have jumped to conclusions, that the lighter and the letter might have more innocent explanations than they'd imagined. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, everything changed. Benjamin was at the construction site when he got a frantic call from Mrs. Dorothy. "Benjamin, come quick, the old house is on fire." He dropped everything and ran to his car, his heart pounding. Arriving at the property, he watched in horror as flames consumed the old wooden structure. Firefighters were already there, battling the blaze that the light rain couldn't contain. "How did this happen?" he asked Mrs. Dorothy, who stood watching, with tears in her eyes. "I'm not sure. I saw smoke from my porch and called the fire department right away," she replied, her voice trembling. "Oh, Benjamin, all your family's history." He barely heard the rest, his mind immediately turning to the cameras. Had they caught the start of the fire? Had they recorded the culprit? As the firefighters worked, Benjamin pulled up the footage. On his phone, he rewound to moments before the flames appeared. What he saw chilled him. A man, his face partially hidden by a hood, was clearly visible entering the house with what looked like a gas can. Minutes later, flames flickered in the windows, and the man ran to a car parked at a distance. Benjamin zoomed in on the car's image, barely making out part of the license plate. It was enough to confirm his suspicions, if he had something to compare it to. Just then, Amanda arrived breathless, having been alerted by her mother. "My God!" she cried, seeing the burning house. "Benjamin, are you okay?" He nodded, pulling her aside. "Amanda, I need to know, what kind of car does Ryan drive?" She stared at him, confused by the question at a time like this. "Sail Silver Fiesta. Why? Does the license plate end in 7824? Amanda's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" Benjamin showed her the footage on his phone, watching the horror grow on her face as she realized what had happened. "We have to go to the police," she said immediately. "This is insane. He could have hurt someone." As the firefighters finally brought the flames under control, Benjamin and Amanda drove to the local police station. There they presented their evidence to the sheriff: the camera footage, the lighter they'd found, the forged letter, and Ryan's history of possessive behavior. "We'll investigate immediately," the sheriff assured, taking notes. "Arson is a serious matter. I suggest you take extra precautions until we resolve this." As they left the station, Amanda looked devastated. "The house, all our history." Benjamin hugged her, trying to offer comfort. "It was just a structure, Amanda. The memories stay with us, and we're building something new, literally." "I suppose you're right," she replied, wiping a tear. "But it still hurts." That night, gathered at Amanda's house with Ethan already asleep, they discussed their next steps. "Maybe we should speed up the construction of the new house," Benjamin suggested. "The sooner we settle in there, the better." Amanda hesitated, biting her lip. What if he tries something against the new house too? "I installed more cameras today, and the guard was told to be extra watchful," Benjamin reassured her. "Besides, the police are aware now. They'll keep an eye out." "I'm still worried," Amanda admitted. "Not just about the house, but about you. Ethan is so happy now, having you as his father. If anything happens—" Benjamin held her hands firmly. "Nothing will happen, I promise. We'll get through this together as a family." The word family hung between them, solid and comforting. "A family," Amanda repeated softly. "That's what we are now, isn't it?" "It's what we've always been," Benjamin answered, "even when I was too far away to see it." The next morning, they received news that Ryan had been detained for questioning. The evidence, combined with witnesses who saw his car near the property on the day of the fire, was strong enough to keep him in custody while the investigation continued. With that concern temporarily eased, they returned to their routine, now focused on speeding up the completion of the new house. Benjamin worked tirelessly, often staying late at the construction site, determined to build the home his family deserved. A month passed. The new house was taking shape quickly thanks to their doubled efforts. Ethan, recovered from the initial shock of the fire, resumed his regular visits to the site, now accompanied not just by Amanda, but also by his grandmother, who had finally begun to accept that Benjamin had truly changed. It was during one of these family visits that Benjamin decided the time had come. He had planned carefully, even involving Ethan in his scheme. As they walked through the nearly finished house, Benjamin guided Amanda to what would be the main living room. In the center, where construction debris would normally be, stood a small table set for an impromptu picnic, a simple cloth, sandwiches, juice, and a small vase with wildflowers. "What's this?" Amanda asked, surprised. "A special lunch." Ethan answered excitedly before Benjamin could speak. "I helped make the sandwiches." Amanda looked at her son, then at Benjamin, puzzled by the mystery. "There's something I want to ask you," Benjamin explained, visibly nervous, "and I thought here, where we're building our future, would be the perfect place." He signaled to Ethan, who ran to a nearby toolbox and pulled out a small velvet box. "Is it time, Dad?" the boy asked eagerly. "It's time, champ," Benjamin confirmed, taking the box and kneeling before Amanda. Her eyes widened as she finally understood what was happening. "Benjamin, Amanda," he began, his voice slightly shaky, "I already made the biggest mistake of my life by leaving you. I spent 5 years paying the price for my cowardice. Now, all I want is to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of your love and our son." He paused, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking you to give me the chance to build a better future together. Would you marry me again?" Tears streamed freely down Amanda's face. She looked at Ethan, who watched the scene with wide, hopeful eyes, and then back at Benjamin. "Yes," she answered simply. "Yes, I will." Benjamin slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands, standing up to embrace her. Ethan didn't wait for an invitation to join the hug, jumping between them with childlike joy. "Now we're a real family," the boy exclaimed. "We always were, son," Amanda replied, smiling through her tears. "We just took a little longer to find our way back to each other." The wedding was a simple ceremony held in the backyard of their newly finished home, with only close friends and family in attendance. Mrs. Dorothy, of course, held a place of honor, having been instrumental in reuniting the family. Ethan, proud in his first suit, carried the rings, the same ones they had kept all those years, symbols of a broken promise, now renewed with maturity and deeper understanding. When the judge declared them husband and wife once more, it wasn't just Benjamin and Amanda celebrating a union, but an entire family finally finding their place in the world. At the reception that followed, while Ethan played with the other, children and guests enjoyed the food Amanda had prepared. Benjamin slipped away for a moment to take it all in. From the porch of their new home, he could see the charred remains of the old structure they had decided to keep as a reminder, not of what they had lost, but of what they had almost never recovered. Amanda found him there, slipping her hand into his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "How close I came to losing all this," Benjamin answered honestly. "How lucky I was to get a second chance." "It wasn't just luck," Amanda corrected. "It was courage. The courage you didn't have before, to face your fears and responsibilities." Benjamin wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her closer. "I still get scared sometimes," he confessed, "afraid I won't be a good father, a good husband." "Fear is natural," Amanda repeated the words he himself had said months before. "But we won't let it define our future. Not this time." They returned to the party hand in hand, rejoining their guests, their son, and the new life they had chosen to build together. Not in spite of the past, but carrying its lessons into a wiser, happier future. Months later, with the family fully settled into their new home and the expanded bakery thriving on the restored grounds of the old house, life had found its new rhythm. The house, built with so much love and attention to detail, had become the true home none of them had ever known before. The spacious kitchen, with its large windows letting in natural light, was the heart of the home. There, Amanda experimented with new recipes for the bakery, often with Ethan's enthusiastic, if not always helpful, assistance. Benjamin, when he wasn't working on new construction projects in the area, would join them, slowly learning the secrets of the bakery his wife had mastered so well. "How you have to mix the dough like this, Dad," Ethan demonstrated with exaggerated seriousness, repeating the instructions Amanda had given him countless times. Gentle but firm. Benjamin followed his little teacher's guidance dutifully, exchanging amused glances with Amanda over their son's head. These simple, precious moments at home were what Benjamin cherished most in his new life. The family nights watching old movies that Amanda loved, the Sunday mornings picking fruit in the orchard they had just begun to plant, the dinner table, conversations where Ethan eagerly shared his school adventures. Each moment was a reminder of what Benjamin had almost lost forever. His relationship with Amanda's parents had also slowly improved. Mrs. Margaret was the first to open up, acknowledging Benjamin's genuine effort to be a good father and husband. Mr. Richard took longer, his pride still wounded by how his daughter had been treated years before. It wasn't until he saw Benjamin tirelessly fixing the old tractor on the neighboring farm, working through the night to help old man Jenkins save his harvest, that the man finally offered a sincere smile. "You really have changed, son," his father-in-law said one evening, handing him a beer as they watched the stars from the porch. "You're not that impulsive kid anymore." "Thank you, Mr. Richard," Benjamin replied, moved by the unspoken acceptance in that simple gesture. "I learned the hard way." "What matters is that you learned," the older man said, glancing inside where Amanda and Ethan were preparing dessert. "They deserve the best." "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to give it to them." The community had also embraced Benjamin's return, especially after the events with Ryan, which had shown his commitment to his family. The expanded bakery became a local gathering spot, with Amanda offering weekend baking classes. Benjamin, in turn, began organizing volunteer efforts to help families in need with home repairs, a way to give back the support they had received. One sunny Sunday morning, Benjamin found himself kneeling on the same patch of land where Mrs. Dorothy had once found him crying at the start of his journey toward redemption. This time, however, he wasn't alone. Ethan crouched beside him, helping plant the fruit tree saplings that would grow alongside him, silent witnesses to a story of mistakes, regret, and finally, redemption. "Dad?" Ethan called, his little hands covered in dirt. "Why are we planting?" "Trees that'll take so long to grow fruit. Grandma said some take years." Benjamin paused, carefully choosing his words. This was more than just gardening. It was a chance to teach his son something important. "You know, Ethan, when I was young, I only thought about the here and now," he began, gently settling a jabuticaba sapling into the hole they'd dug. "I wanted quick results in everything. That's part of why I made big mistakes." The boy listened intently, rarely seeing his father so reflective. "Over time, I learned that the most valuable things usually take time," Benjamin continued, his eyes meeting Amanda's as she slowly approached through the garden. "This orchard we're planting, maybe some trees won't bear fruit until you're a teenager, but think how special it'll be to pick fruit from a tree you planted yourself as a child." "Like the tree and me are growing up together?" Ethan asked, understanding in his own way. "Exactly." Benjamin smiled, ruffling his son's hair affectionately. "Because sometimes the best things in life are the ones we have to wait for and work toward patiently. And because we're planting not just for us, but for the future, for you, and for whoever comes next." His gaze met Amanda's again, who was now smiling, her hands unconsciously resting on her still flat belly. It was a gesture Benjamin knew well, the same one she'd made in the early months of her pregnancy with Ethan, as if already protecting the life growing inside her. Just the night before, after Ethan had fallen asleep, Amanda had shared the news they now silently acknowledged through that meaningful look. A secret they would soon share with Ethan. The family they had rebuilt with so much love was about to grow again. "Are we done with this one, Dad?" Ethan asked, pulling Benjamin back to the present moment. "Can I help Grandpa with the chickens now?" "Of course, champ. We're done for today." As the boy ran toward the small chicken, curb Mr. Richard had set up to keep him entertained, Benjamin stood up, brushing the dirt off his hands and walking over to Amanda. "He's going to be so excited when he finds out," he remarked, gently placing his hand on his wife's belly. "Think you're ready for 2 tornadoes?" she teased, covering his hand with hers. "With you by my side?" Benjamin smiled, pulling her into a gentle hug. "I'm ready for anything." From the porch of the house, Mrs. Dorothy watched the scene with satisfaction. There was something deeply right about the cycle unfolding before her eyes. Where there had once been abandonment and pain, a family now flourished. Where one house had fallen, another had risen. Where dead trees had been cut down, new ones were planted for the future. Time heals all wounds, she murmured to herself, the wisdom of a lifetime confirmed once more. All it takes is patience and an open heart. And as Benjamin and Amanda walked back to the house they had built together, hand in hand the late afternoon sun lit the path ahead, a path that, though it had begun with tears and regret, now stretched with promises of shared joy and mutual understanding for many years to come. The end of the story. Dear listener, your journey with Benjamin, Amanda and Ethan has come to an end, but the reflection continues. What would you do in Benjamin's place? Is it worth giving a second chance to someone who hurt us deeply? Leave your comment and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.